In the last section of this episode, you will learn how to make a server-side workflow script handle conflicting changes that various users make to the reference data, how to make a server-side workflow script send the mobile user an information form. Your workflow script can even accommodate more than one user, if you can guarantee that each separate user only updates or deletes rows that no other user will change. This needs some work. In an ideal world, if none of your users were ever offline, everyone would have the same version of the reference data on their devices. In the harsh real world, each user has a snapshot of the reference data as it was when he or she last synchronized his or her device with the cloud. The problem: user A, who is using the same reference table as user B, has just deleted a row and updated the reference table in the cloud. User B has not downloaded current reference data in an hour. The local copy of the reference data on his phone still has 20 rows. If user B submits the form with changes to the now deleted row, it's up to the server-side script to sort out the conflicting edits. In this example workflow, the script will accept user A's change and send user B an explanation why his change was lost. The solution: your workflow script checks whether the row that the user submitted with edits is still available in the reference data. If the row is not available, the script checks whether user B wanted to delete the row anyway. If yes, problem solved. If the user wanted to modify the reference table row, which is not there anymore, the script sends the user the contacts pop form with a message explaining the situation. Let's get down to business. Create the conflict message form that the script will send to users who lose their changes. Contacts pop is a tiny form, but there are a number of interesting things about it. The hidden equals true attribute makes sure that the user will not see it in his or her list of forms on the left of the mobile interface. The parameters attribute is a list of name data type pairs of each parameter that you want to pass into the form from the workflow script. You want to display a string type message to the user, so msg:string looks right. In the body of the form, add a label, and use the reference equals ref attribute and make the refarg reference the messaging parameter that you defined in the form element. The template for the refarg is @parameter.nameOfParameter, which is @parameter.msg in this particular case. You will specify the value of the parameter in the associated workflow script. Save the form in the Rocky Jupiter folder. Open your workflow script. In the header, specify the new form that you just set up. In the top for each loop, below the two variables you introduced earlier, make the script skip the current row if it was not marked or edited by the user. Next, you need to check whether the row exists in the database or not. Use the read method on the contact reference table to return the row with the relevant ID value. Call the single or default method, which returns either the only member of the list that you call it on, or null if there is no first item. The method will return an error if there is more than one row with the same ID. So by calling it, you make sure that you don't accidentally have a list instead of a single value in the db row variable. Check whether the db row variable is null. If it is, meaning it's not found, check whether the user marked the row for deletion. If no, you need to send the second user an explanation. Run the pop method on the contacts pop form to make it display on the user's phone. The form's built-in variable stores all the forms that you include in the using section of the script header. Use it to address the contacts pop form. Set up the explanatory message. Make the script skip the following instructions if the current row was not stored in the reference table. Leave the rest of the workflow script just as it was. Save and test your solution. Open the contacts form on two mobile devices. Delete a contact on one device. Submit. Then make a different change to the same contact on the second device. And submit. Synchronize the device and wait for the conflict message. Now your script can handle your user's attempts to change non-existent rows. You still need to work out what to do when separate users make conflicting changes, but don't delete the row in a jointly edited reference table. First, you want to be able to check whether the row that the user is trying to edit has changed in the reference table since the user's mobile device last downloaded the reference table. Depending on the circumstances, the last sync could have happened a few minutes, a few hours, or even a few days ago. There could be significant differences between the version in the cloud and the version on the device. A single has changed in dB variable will contain the result of all the comparisons of the rows in the reference table with the hidden labels in the form that display the version of the row when it was last synchronized. Below this, in the if statement, the script checks whether the edited row has changed. If the current reference table and its local version are not the same, there is a check if the submission is perhaps identical to the change in the reference table. After all, there could have been a typo in the contact list, and the earlier and the later editor both want to correct it. If the new change and the older change are the same, you got lucky, your script doesn't need to do anything. If the changes are different, the second user modified the row in a different way, or wanted to delete the row, in this case, you have to make a decision about which change to accept. It usually makes more sense to go with the last change wins business logic, but for the sake of example, the workflow should accept the earlier change. The user who made the later change should get an explanatory message. So in this case, the script rejects the later change and sends a conflict message with context pop. If you handle this situation in this way, you don't want to execute the commands that come after this pop method call in the for each loop, so you will use the continue statement to jump to the next row. The second for each loop stays the same. Try out your new toy. Open the contacts form on your devices. Modify one of the contacts on the second device, while the form is open on your first device. Then edit the same row on the first device, making sure that you make a different change, and submit. Synchronize the device and watch the workflow script send the preset error message. If you now check the updated reference table, you'll see that indeed the earlier change won out over the later one. And that's all for this tutorial. To recap what you've learned, you can use form submission data to manipulate reference data on the server any way you like. Updating, inserting, or deleting rows, checking for editing conflicts and resolving them, you're ready for them all. We'd like to thank you for your attention today. Be sure to check out www.mobilengine.com to keep up with all our exciting developments. Thank you.